For over half a century, humans have endeavored to make business a force for good. But is the movement working? Or is it time to explore a new path forward? Welcome to Less Talk, More Action. We are your hosts, Joel Caesar and Owen Barrett, experts in clean energy, net zero real estate, decarbonization, and entrepreneurship. In each episode, we ask provocative questions and share stories from the front lines of sustainability with leaders in science, tech, and business taking real action to design a cleaner, better future. Thanks for joining the conversation. Now, let's get to work. Welcome to Less Talk, More Action podcast. My name is Joel Caesar, the world's undisputed voice of building decarbonization. Joining me as always is Owen Barrett, the self-proclaimed Adam Newman of Green Building. Today's guest, Raz Godelnik, Associate Professor of Strategic Design and Management at the Parsons School of Design, where he explores how business design and systems thinking can drive transformative sustainability. Raz was an interesting guest. I think we acknowledge on the show, first time in two versions of this podcast, we've had a professor on. So like the provocative thinkers we are, we probably annoyed the teacher a little bit with some of our questions. But I thought he handled it well, and super interesting topic. What'd you think?
Yeah, I think I think we went down a bit of a rabbit hole about toothpaste, but I think overall that's a really good metaphor for like the sustainability industry at large. So I think it was an interesting like microcosm of a much bigger situation. I thought it was a good one.
Me too, and I don't mind the toothpaste deep dive, because I think anyone who works in this industry kind of gets that when you're talking about toothpaste, you're talking about anything, and it's a better way to think about sustainability and these big systems problems than some other esoteric way to think about it. Like, let's think about a company, a big company, and a product everyone uses, and the way they think they're trying to solve it. I mean, this is the stuff we got to think about and talk about. So yeah. I thought it was great.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, but before we get into all that, since we have a professor on the show and we're inspired by an educator, the bit today is going to be Dr. Joel and Dr. Owen create a course at our alma mater, the Bren School of Environmental Science and Management at UC Santa Barbara. So first shot, plug to the UC Santa Barbara Bren School. We both loved it there. So if you're thinking about a master's, that's the place. But the bit's going to be you and I thinking, okay, our alma mater reaches out, says, hey, look, you guys are crushing it. This podcast is the most famous sustainability podcast on earth. You guys got to come back to campus and teach a class. And you get to say, what do you want to teach? What do you guys want to, what's going to be your curriculum, or what's going to be the topic? So what do you think? What's your course?
I think my course would be called Take Action and Get Out of Your Lane, or Don't Stay in Your Lane. And what I mean by that is, at Bren especially, they teach this multidisciplinary approach. You should be sort of balanced between the science, the business, I don't remember the other classes that we take, but you need to be able to speak the science to the science people, the business to the business people. I think the mistake a lot of kids make when they are earlier in their careers.
Regulation to the regulators.
Yeah. I think the mistake a lot of kids make early in their careers is they're a bit shy and reserved, and they think if they were hired to a sustainability team or an ESG team, they just have to work within that ESG team. But the reality is, I mean, the ESG touches all aspects of business. So like when I was an energy manager for Fortune 100 Life Sciences, I was walking the manufacturing floor. I was going to the science labs. I was talking to the facilities people. Like, I was trying to understand as best I could, how does this entire business work, and what does energy and waste touch? Because that's what I was focused on. And I think I talk to a lot of young professionals today that think, ESG means I talk to other ESG people. And I think that's where this like echo chamber effect happens. And maybe it's harder to make impact because you don't really know how the business is actually running.
Very cool. I like it. I'm gonna reach out to the Bren School and say they need to hire Dr. Owen Barrett.
Dr. Owen, I'll get my what is it called, where you get one of those fake PhDs?
Yeah, we should know that. I don't know, honorary. I guess honorary.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe UCSB can give us one.
Yeah. Well, it's always been a dream of mine to be a professor, and something I still hope to do one day. I did a little bit when we went to Bren School. I taught in the undergrad. I had a couple of different TA assignments while I was there. Loved it. So I've thought about this a lot in my life. But I would say it's actually in theme with something Raz was orienting around, like this idea of zooming out. So like the title of my course would be Question Everything. And it's almost similar thing to what you're saying here. It's like, don't just go talk to ESG people about, oh, hey, I want to get an ESG. What do you think? And they're going to be like, well, you have to think about carbon disclosure project. You have to think about scope one emissions. And you have to think about corporate sustainability reports. It's like, no, nope, nope, none of that. I want to like, what are we trying to do? We're trying to ask business to operate in a way that helps the planet thrive. I don't know, maybe that's a crass way of teeing up the what we're doing, but it's like that's the question you ask. How do we do that? How are they doing it now? Well, none of that seems to be working. So like let's zoom out and think about bigger picture. Like what should business actually be doing? How do we create frameworks that is going to incentivize business to do things we want them to do? And I would say in my line of work, I've always, I kind of innately do this, and it probably annoys people I work with at times. But it's like, even in our world of commercial real estate, we think, sometimes you and I are like, well, why do we have to do all this reporting? Why do real estate firms spend 6 months of the year organizing their data just to report? Well, because the investors want it, and everyone's like, okay, great, let us keep doing it because the investors drive all parts of this business. It's like, I guess, but maybe like you and I do, like, who are these investors? Can I go talk to them? Like, questioning everything. They're just like, well, the investors, and I'm doing this with air quotes. Like, who are they? They are individual people who also have now gotten caught up in this world of reporting that's flawed. So we need to go to them and question everything. I did this when I was at Santa Monica. We're like, let's build the world's greenest building. And we talked to some engineer, like, well, you have to do something with Blackwater. To hit this one framework you're trying to do, you can't be disposing of your human wastes into the sewer system. And we said, well, okay, well, the state regulations don't allow it. And I was like, well, let's go question those state regulations because we'll change the state regulations. Like, I think just mindset of if you're teaching sustainability, it needs to be in this perspective of question everything all the time. Like, let's not accept anything in this world as fact. We need to continue to like evolve with this first principles thinking.
Yeah, I agree. Were you able to change state legislation, or how'd that play out?
We didn't change the plumbing code. We kind of set it in motion though. Like every time they produce an update to the building or plumbing or energy code, it's done on a 3-year basis. They do these addendums, which is sort of like, if you want to challenge the existing code, here's a framework to use that might get the attention of the regulators and allow them to give you an allowance in this code cycle. So we ended up, the building used composting toilets, and we treated rainwater that was collected on the roof to potable standards, and it was all kinds of material choices we had to make with the roofing material and the piping material, and the composting toilets were their whole thing. But it was enough detail that it was being able to put in engineering speak into this addendum of what was then probably the 2019 plumbing code. So I haven't followed it since, but at least it like put it
Yeah.
in paper so that people can reference it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I mean, very similar classes. It sounds like we should be co-professors, and I think Bren should hire us.
All right, there you go, Brent School. You'll be hearing from us. Well, that was fun, but now let's dive into our conversation with Raz Godelnik. Joining us today is Raz Godelnik, Associate Professor of Strategic Design and Management at Parsons School of Design, where he explores how business, design, and systems thinking can drive transformative sustainability. Raz is the author of Rethinking Corporate Sustainability in the Era of Climate Crisis, a compelling call to move beyond incremental ESG efforts towards bold, systemic change. With a background in business and entrepreneurship, he brings real-world experience into the classroom, bridging the gap between theory and practice. His work challenges business leaders to rethink core assumptions and embrace new models of value creation that align with ecological and social resilience. Raz is a respected voice in the global sustainability community, helping shape the next generation of leaders for a climate-challenged world. So, Raz, welcome to Let's Talk, More Action.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, Raz, we get right to work. We start our guests off with the same question every time. How are you taking action to make the world a better place?
That's a great question. So first, I probably don't do enough, and I should do more. But I think for me, it's really about my role as an educator and my engagement with with students. So I know I am just one person, but I hope that with my ability to help open students, and I have dozens of students every year, to new opportunities, to rethinking about the challenges that we face. I hope that this is my my small contribution, and that with their help, we could make things better, and hopefully sooner than later.
Man, I love it. Raz, we don't get a lot of educators on the podcast. I'm
I
curious
think
to,
he's I think he's the
is he the,
first.
yeah, I think he's the
First time we've
first.
had a
Yeah, I
professor.
know, man.
Yeah,
I got to,
very exciting.
brings me back to my grad school days. I got to like sit upright, make sure I don't get called on if I'm not prepared. Um, are you optimistic or pessimistic about AI and what that's going to do to education and students? I know that doesn't have anything to do with climate, but I'm just curious.
It might. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I think that like every tool, every technology, the question is what do we do with it? And I could do the connection with AI and sustainability. I mean, is AI going to drive sustainable change, or is it going to become a barrier? I think that this is very much about the type of mindset that we bring to working with AI, whether it is in education or with sustainability. It's definitely, I mean, a game changer. I think it's for us to figure out, how do we deal with this tool to really to help us move, into a more desirable future, whether again it is in education or in sustainability.
Yeah, we could dive down this topic all day, but maybe we'll circle back to AI. Roz, you caught my attention with your book titled Rethinking Corporate Sustainability. We've talked about it before on the show. I've joked with Owen that I got a book cooking, circulating in my mind around a similar topic. Just that, and I maybe I wouldn't be as articulate as I'm sure your book is, and well researched as a professor. My kind of core thesis at the moment is I just think we should blow up the whole movement. Like, I don't know when you think it started, corporate sustainability, 70s, 80s, 90s. At some point, it became really part of the business fabric of the world, especially the U.S. and the Western society. And all good intentions, a lot of good organizations set up, a lot of cool progress being made. But like where we are now, what I've seen in my professional career, I graduated undergrad in 2004. I don't know. Maybe we've plateaued. Maybe we're heading in a worse direction. I don't know. I don't know if anybody was like, we're nailing it. This corporate sustainability thing is going great. So all that to be said, we're here to learn from you. Why'd you write the book now? Tell us all about it. Dive right in.
Sure. So the book came out of my own frustration, perhaps similar to to yours, about where we are, and the level of progress that we've made. At the beginning of the book, I referred to a quote from the CEO of BSR, one of the sustainability organizations, saying that we've done so much, and at the same time we haven't moved very far ahead, something along these lines. And I think this is exactly where where we are, or that was the point when I started thinking about writing a book. And I think this is still the point now, where I think we shouldn't ignore the progress that we have made, but at the same time it's not enough. If the problem is moving faster than the solution, then you're actually not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And I think that for me that was the point of figuring out, I mean, why we're not able to move forward fast enough. And what I tried is really to lay out both of my understanding of the problem, and how I think it should be addressed.
What? So I'm curious. What's the root cause? Why are we moving slower than the problem?
Yeah, so I think the root cause is really about it's the mindset. I think that's, and the mindset is very much, it's what they call sustainability as usual. It's the idea that while we've seen this shift from the days of Milton Friedman, and the responsibility of a business is business, and the idea that companies, apologies for that. That so it's what we see is that sustainability efforts, with all the progress that companies have made addressing their ecological and social impacts, they're still grounded in shareholder capitalism, in the idea that businesses are still first and foremost committed to profit maximization and short-term growth. And that sort of mindset is limiting every progress that we're trying to do, because whether we're trying to start from scratch or just figuring out how to transform the system, the idea is that the system as it is right now, is just not capable to move forward fast enough, because again it's still grounded with in this very uh, very clear principles, of shareholder capitalism that became really these very significant barriers to any progress.
So how much of the book can you disclose here? We want people to go out and buy your book. We don't want to give away all your secrets, but what's the core thesis? What's the idea? I mean, it sounds like, are you saying we need to rethink capitalism?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, the idea is that I'm talking about when we think about, the sort of transformation that we need to have, right? I think that it requires us to develop a different mindset, right? And that, different mindset could be, more radical than we see now. I mean, right now, what we see is basically that everything is kind of, it's about voluntary efforts, right? Companies do what they feel comfortable doing, not what they need to do. So in a way, I mean, yeah, you can talk about, rethinking capitalism, but I think it doesn't have to be, either zero or 100. It could be, anywhere within this range. I mean, you can think about restructuring of financial markets. You can think about, different types of new regulation that could support this change. And I think you can also think about, changes in social norms. I mean, changes in social norms don't have necessarily anything to do with, redesigning capitalism. It's really about, thinking about how do we, redesign what is acceptable and what is unacceptable for us as society.
I'm going to ask a bit of a, I don't know if it's a provocative question or not, but maybe there are challenges with capitalism, but do you also think that the sustainability movement at large has just done a pretty poor job at um, at tying value to the initiatives that it's trying to push forward?
Yes, I think that what we see, I mean, if we if you move away, or if you have conversations with people, right, what you find out is that and I talk about people that are not within the field of sustainability. You find out that sustainability failed in resonating with people, right? Well, what we find is that people have hard time to understand it. People have hard time to see how sustainability or any sustainable driven changes benefit their life. And it's easier also, I think, to sell quote unquote, to people the false perception that there's this very clear tension between sustainability and the economy, right? That it's all about trade-offs, and I think it's in a way this is a failure. If there's anything, I mean, that we need to do right now, I think it's not just about thinking about redesigning our economic system. It's also about redesigning sustainability and how we make it, more, more desirable, more appealing to the to the public.
Yeah, Raz, I've not read the book. Apologies. I plan to, but so without knowing every detail, maybe you can say, well, this is in the book. You can read it there. But if we get into some of the recommendations, you would say, like, how do we fix this? I don't know. Maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, but it sounds like you might be gearing towards, like, we need kind of political change. We need policy. We need better financial mechanisms. And I guess I would say, haven't we tried that? And you need this like political coalition that just, I don't know. Sorry if I'm being pessimistic, but I've been in this industry now, like I said, graduate undergrad '04. I don't know, 21, 22 years. I'm just like, maybe I'm jaded, but I'm like, when are we going to elect a governing body of Congress plus state legislatures, governors, plus presidency that will ever get to a point where like the ideas to transform our economy for the better are going to be ingrained in policy. I can't see it. So I don't know, is that addressed in your theories here with the book, or or am I just being too pessimistic?
No, I think that it's all connected, right? It's the idea that everything is connected, right? This is how I mean the idea of applying, a systems approach. That if you talk about, political change, I think it's very much or if you talk about political and economic changes, it's also a cultural change, right? And I think it's also it's very easy to be more pessimistic, perhaps, these days in the US. But if the world is more than the US, and you see, I mean, places in Europe where sustainability is more integrated in the culture, and it just it becomes easier to really to communicate and to promote sustainability initiatives and sustainability values, I would say. So I know that this is, yeah, I mean, it's a marathon, right? And maybe we won't end it in our lifetime, but I think what we do need to acknowledge, going back to your earlier point, right, is that the approach that we're taking is not working.
Yeah.
Something needs to give up, something needs to change. And I think it's difficult because many people like yourself have been working on the type of the different frameworks for change for many years, and it's difficult to say, okay, this is not working. However, I'll end with this point. Interestingly, now I just saw yesterday a new survey of sustainability experts from around the globe, asking them about the current state of sustainability. And you see that actually the majority of these experts, and coming from industry and from policy and so forth, they believe that it's not working. The current approach isn't working, and many of them believe that radical change is needed. So I think that there's definitely more recognition in the need really to make changes these days, and in part I think it's part the curse of the backlash against climate action, sustainability that we see these days may transform into a blessing, because it requires us really to look inward and think what doesn't work.
Raz, do you think that the sustainability movement and the ESG movement got too broad, and that we would have bigger or more success if we kind of narrowed our search in terms of what we were actually going after? I mean, it's really hard to have an impact in water, in waste, in energy, in supply chains, in corporate governance, and
Biodiversity.
like in
Yeah.
all of these metrics that we're going after. What if we just sort of rethought the whole movement and said, we're just going to double down on energy or biodiversity or corporate governance, but didn't go after the whole thing? You think that would work better or worse?
I think it's probably the latter. I think it's not going to work as well, because I mean, you're right. Holistic approach is more difficult, but I think it is what we need, because I'll give you just one example. I'm thinking that part of the problem is that we have been focusing too much on upstream solutions, upstream changes, and rightly so, because most of the carbon emissions that they come from the supply chain, right, from the design phases and so forth. But at the same time, what happened, because not we felt that it's okay if we just make the necessary changes upstream, that it will be great, because we don't need then to engage with people, with consumers, on the level that we need in terms of changes in their lifestyles. And I think that was a mistake, because what happens is that we kind of finding ourselves in a way, or in a place where people just don't get it, right? And they don't, and maybe they have they don't have as much openness and willingness to make changes, because so much of the focus was upstream, and when I say we, I talk about governments, I talk about companies. Think about that. I mean, companies for decades have designed, an environment that it's all about consumption, that it's all about making this connection between, consuming more and becoming, happier and so forth, right? And so we assume that if we just, make changes to renewable energy, and we work on greater efficiencies in production and in the supply chain, that would be enough. But it doesn't work if you don't think about rethinking consumption, right? Redesigning consumption. So I think overall it's really what I'm suggesting is that you need to think about all of the above. It's not easier, but I think it's necessary.
Raz, I'm going to jump to you shared an article with us. I think, what is the title here? Sustainability is at a crossroads, what business needs to know, by a gentleman named Chris Coulter, CEO of GlobeScan. Um, and I found it intriguing for a number of reasons. I'd love to get your take in general on this piece, but what does he say here? Number two, a confidence in institutions is declining across the board. So national governments declining, belief in the private sector declining. The UN has seen a 12-point drop. NGOs are down 16 points. So trust in any institution that we think used to be here to help us with this cause. The UN. I mean, how many times has the UN convened some kind of global consortium to try to get some agreement? That usually doesn't happen or is kind of toothless. National governments, of course, like, even though you're saying we're a little too U.S. centric, we can all admit maybe there's national governments that need to do way more. So I guess I want you to react to this whole article because you shared it. You obviously have a perspective on it, but like, this is part of what I say. I think we just need to burn it down. All the organizations that currently we look to for climate or for sustainability, it's just like, well, they didn't work. So what do you do in business when something doesn't work? You stop contributing to the parts of your business that aren't working. You kind of blow them up and rethink how you're approaching that challenge. So why don't we do that in sustainability? So that's part of the question, and then maybe just respond to the whole piece if you'd like.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you know, in a way, I mean, this is the part that I refer to, talking about the sustainability experts that see things that that acknowledge that the current approach isn't working. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think maybe we need to rethink why. I mean, the fact that we see the decreasing confidence in these institutions. I think what it means, what I read into it, is that we are trying to solve a 21st century problem with 20th century tools and frameworks and institutions. Unfortunately, I don't think the UN is, with all the respect that I have for the UN, is the right institution to lead these efforts, because it's just it didn't prove itself so far to be effective in doing so. I think that we need to create new ways. Probably many of them will be bottom up frameworks to figure out how to make it work. And with that, maybe a little bit of critique that I have about this survey is that a lot of the conversation is about what we need to do. I think for me, especially as someone who is coming from a design school, it's about how. I mean, we all know what we need to do. Where we fail is in understanding how we're going to do it, how we're going to achieve the goals that or how we're going to take the steps that are needed to move into a more desirable future. So I think that that's one thing. The other thing is understanding, again, having a clear understanding of the barriers, right? How, where, why we're failing and how do we need to address them? Because if we don't dive deeper into the barriers, then we're going to find ourselves in 5, 10 years, addressing the same barriers again and again.
Outside of lack of capital committed to the cause, what are some of the other top barriers that you think we face?
Yeah, I think that I think that part of it is the fact that we, again, beyond the question of that shareholder capitalism mindset, it's also this understanding that we haven't found how to connect sustainability with people's priorities and concerns. The idea is that, and I mean, look around the world. You find many people, not only in the US, that care about climate, and at the same time, for example, they vote for for leaders and for parties that promise them some sort of economic progress, but have no zero regard to climate change, right? And so not only here, I mean, you can think about the Netherlands, you can think about Argentina and so forth. So what to me it this is this is a signal that we haven't figured out how to to connect sustainability in better ways to people's well-being, right? How do we help create solutions that actually benefit people and that are directly connected to what people care about? Because if you care about your financial situation, or you care about other things that and that are just are um, more important to you, and no matter how you care about climate, you'll vote, or you'll direct your energy towards these priorities. And if we don't figure out how to make these connections, I think then we're going to find ourselves 10 years from now with a similar report to this one.
Yeah, people keep not that you just did this, Raz, but there's a few of our guests recently that point to polls about how most Americans believe we should do something about climate. Most Americans believe business should be doing more, but it's like they don't vote that way. I feel like those polls are BS.
Well,
It's
haven't we
like,
seen at the last couple of elections that polls are
yeah,
not
it's like
accurate?
what? Yeah, okay. 90% of people think business should do more, or the government should do more about climate. But when I vote, it's going to be the 20th most important issue. It's like, well, then it doesn't matter. That poll, give me a break. So that's my rant for the day, Raz.
No,
But
no, you're. I think
well,
you're right.
go ahead, respond to that, and then I had another question.
Yeah, I think part of it is also. I mean, part of it is it's really about education, but I think it's also about, I mean, understanding, or just reframing it. I think is the problem, the people that don't vote necessarily as we want them to vote, or is the problem with us, or with the solution providers that just don't have solutions that are good enough?
I think we agree with you there. That's been a big theme of our show. Is like, let's stop waiting for policy and government to make us or tell us what to do. Let's go out there and create solutions that you don't have to ask permission for. But going back to, like you said, you're a professor of design thinking. So let's learn from you here. I guess like when you have students who are reading this book, or they're in the course where you're teaching these lessons that you're working on, you're thinking about, what are you hoping they take away? Is there, or if a student comes up to you, maybe a better way of asking, and says, I'm inspired, Raz. Your class is amazing. Your book is dead on, but I don't believe in these institutions either. Where do I go? How do I go get involved? How do I help? I want to save the planet. What do I go do, Raz?
Yeah, very, very simple questions. But that's okay. That's what we're here for.
You're
I
the
think
professor. You get big questions from these
I know, I
students.
know. No pressure. But I think that it starts with asking better questions. In a way, I'll give an.
Joel, you have shitty
I,
questions.
Yeah, I get that a lot on the
no,
show.
no. It's not your question necessarily, but I think about people who are in the design world. I'll give you an example. So um, I one example that I love giving is thinking about toothpaste tubes, right? And you see companies like Colgate and others that are investing a lot of money and and hours and capital into making the tubes recyclable. And that's they're thinking about how to make it more sustainable. I think, and part of what we teach is really how to zoom out in order to ask ourselves to see if you're asking the right question, right? Is the right question about, how do I move from material A to material B? Or is it about how do I meet the needs of my customers, perhaps without creating any type of waste, right?
Yeah.
So
My
then, and
customers want clean teeth. Do I even need toothpaste?
exactly. Or do I need, the tube, right? Could I shift into other solutions that don't require, some sort of disposable packaging? So if I zoom out and start, with bigger questions, right, I could end up, with very innovative approaches that go beyond, just recyclable, tube that people may or may not recycle, but overall, their impact is very incremental. So, and this is not just about doing the right thing. This is also about creating financial opportunities and just more innovation and so forth. So I would say that when you want to think about your impact, think about the questions that you ask. Think about questions that others in your environment are asking, and how do you help them to ask better questions?
I think what I would
Yeah.
say to all of that too is, are you going after the biggest problem within your business model? To me, if you're Colgate and you're thinking about redesigning the tube, it seems like there may be other opportunities that have far bigger impact that are less greenwashing. So maybe they're not as concerned with that. I mean, do you think that's part of the problem too? Is companies often try and do what they think will look good for their consumer, but maybe doesn't have the biggest impact?
I think that the problem is that companies like Colgate and others, they're still making a very decent profit out of the current business model. So for them, I mean, the question is, how do we make this? They don't want to burn down the house or their business model, right? They want to do, any necessary changes, but very gently, very slowly. So if, the current model works for them, and they
Yeah.
think that they could, make some improvement in terms, of their brand and just making it, look more sustainable by creating, recyclable packaging and so forth. I mean, why not? I mean, as long as there are no, I mean, if there isn't any, external pressure, or alternatively, if you don't see any leadership that truly believes in it and is willing to take the risk, what you'll end up is again with what they call sustainability as usual, with these types of very incremental changes.
I know the toothpaste is a bit of a metaphor here, but I did try recently the little toothpaste tab. You guys tried
I've
that?
tried
Yeah,
them
yeah.
too.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the one I tried wasn't great either. I tried and it
It's
just
like
wasn't the right.
paper straws. Like if you're going to give me an alternative, make it at least as good as what I'm used to. Otherwise, I'm not
I
making the change.
Well, actually, Owen, let's put you on the spot. You're advising Colgate. Okay, Owen, big shot. You don't like our toothpaste idea. What do you want us working on?
I mean, I would look more holistically, like Raz had said. I find it
Zoom
hard to
out.
believe that changing the material your toothpaste tubes are made out of is really that important. When you look at the bigger company and where their waste is being created by or where their emissions are coming from, I feel like that's a move to say, we're Colgate, we care, so we're going to put our toothpaste into a recyclable tube, even though it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just did a quick Google search of like what's Colgate's biggest sustainability challenges, and they get attacked for waste
Yeah,
and
they get attacked, but that doesn't
plastic.
mean that it's a an accurate attack. That means that it's a bunch of sustainability nerds saying I get frustrated because my toothpaste tube isn't recyclable.
Or I'm tired of cleaning up beaches in California and seeing Colgate tubes
Yeah.
on the beach.
I mean, I'm
Sorry,
sure it's a
Raz.
problem. I just don't think it's Colgate's biggest problem.
Well,
it's
actually, we don't have much time left, Raz.
yeah,
Actually, but
yeah,
this is a good segue into
yeah,
a
yeah.
question I wanted to ask you. It's probably going to be our last question before the last question, which is, okay, you wrote this book, and let's say like everyone picks it up and says, this is the new gospel for corporate sustainability. Like, who hires Raz to say we believe in this, Raz? Like, we're gonna. Is it companies or is it like the frameworks that oversee? I don't know, like verifying corporate sustainability. Is it governments? Like who? I don't, maybe this isn't the way you even think, but is there like an entity or a group of entities you hope that they say, Raz, this is the way we want to think. Come on in and tell us what to do.
So I mean, there are many entities, right? And I think for me, and this is also how I think about what my work and how do I engage with the world, right? I do it with with companies, with I do it with organizations, I do it with individuals. I do it with anyone who is open to think and consider how do we need to to make a change. Anyone who is dissatisfied with the current way things are working and is willing to really to open themselves to new approaches, to new thinking, and hopefully to new action.
Well said. Owen, before we get to the last question, any final questions that aren't toothpaste related?
It's not. It's more of an afterthought that I had. I mean, if going back to the last question you asked me, I think I would say like, how important are recyclable tubes when some of the ingredients in your toothpaste are carcinogenic?
Ooh, there you go.
Right. So it's like, but again, this is like a great metaphor for a lot of the problems within sustainability. Is I feel like because these are consumer brands, they're doing what they think will look important to the consumer, not what is actually important from from a true sustainability lens.
Our responsibility lens.
Yeah.
So I can quickly respond to that and say that the way I think about it is that change is non-linear, meaning that maybe you think about the issues that maybe not as material as like here the tube, right, not as material as the energy and other issues, but at the same time this is the touch point, right? This is the way that you engage with the people, right? And if if you are able to engage with people in a way that will help eventually change people's mindsets, and then help people maybe rethink not just the small things but also who they vote for and what sort of things they expect from companies, and maybe get people to think, maybe I don't need, why everything in my life is just packaged in disposable packaging, right? Well, why things that, questions that we don't necessarily ask. And it all can start, with a very small step. So I think if we acknowledge that, we are looking into, non-linear pathways forward, it will help us, just, experiment with, new ways that we haven't tried so far.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Raz. I look forward to maybe auditing your class at the Parsons School, so I can continue to ask you annoying questions.
You're welcome.
Just make your questions good ones, Joel.
Yeah, no, it's a good challenge. I mean, I couldn't agree more with just the notion in general, even in all walks of life, business especially. Asking the right question is more than half the battle. So if we take anything away from this, Raz, we'll take that away. But thanks for joining. It's been fascinating. We're going to put the links to the book in the show notes. We'll encourage everyone to go out there and read it. But let's transition to our last question. In a world where we can be pessimistic, and your book is, I don't know, sort of identifying like a tone of this isn't working. That's all good. We understand that's the world we live in, but we try to end the show on a high note and look to the future with optimism. So, Raz, what gives you hope for the future?
So, I mean, I'll start first with one of my favorite quotes, that hope is not a strategy, but nevertheless, I try to remain hopeful, and what keeps me hopeful are my students. I have the amazing honor to engage every year with young, passionate people, and I have great hope to for the world, seeing that this is the new generation coming into business and politics and policy, and again, I hope that I could have my small contribution, add my small added value to their education, but I did definitely my students are the ones that give me hope.
It's good stuff, Raz. Well, we appreciate the humility, of course, but I think even as you started the show with your answer to what are you doing to take action, educating young people, the scale, the magnitude of that impact, if done the right way, is enormous. So we thank you for what you do, and we acknowledge that there's a lot of impact to be had with teaching young people.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Raz. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Owen, as always, for your beautiful insights today on toothpaste. You can find, well, actually, the one that Raz, let's plug you. How does everyone find you? Follow you on LinkedIn? Are you on other social media? Does the book have its own account? What's the best way for everyone to go and find what you're working on?
Yeah, feel free to connect on LinkedIn. I also write usually once a month an article on Medium, so feel free to follow me on Medium as well. And if you want to connect, you can find my email on LinkedIn.
Very cool. I'll have to check out that Medium article, the Medium blog. Thanks for sharing. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Okay, back to my wrap up. You can find Raz on LinkedIn and on Medium apparently. You can find Owen and I on LinkedIn, usually actively antagonizing the more talk, more complaining sustainability crowd. You can find this podcast and more great content at lesstalkmoreaction.com. If you like the podcast, please subscribe, like, and share with your friends. And until next time, we encourage you to ask yourself, what are you doing to take action to make the world a better place?